Myself and an SAS soldier have a lot more than physical prowess in common, as we're both experts when it comes to intelligence gathering when it relates to finding our targets. They have their drones, and I have the Disney Channel, hence why I'm intimately familiar with today's subject of Miss Jojo Siwa. Although I may have told a little bit of a half-truth by saying she was a Disney kid, as Jojo was exploited in the traditional manner as all child stars are, but goddamn if it wasn't on her parents' own terms. They weren't about to let some gross icky stranger abuse their daughter for financial gain. If there was gonna be anybody, they were gonna do it. Of course, only after they already let strangers do it via dance mums that allowed them to have the platform in order to more effectively exploit their daughter via her viral fame and a dance video with Sia.
My bad homies, that was another child named Maddie Ziegler being exploited, who was also on Dance Mums. And by the by, I haven't seen this video in years. Holy f***ing hell, my god, this is so f***ing icky. I totally forgot that this happened. Oh god, oh my f***ing god, ew.
But after that, you best believe they turned their own daughter into a literal product. God, if you hear me, let a lawsuit happen. God, if you hear me, let a lawsuit happen from a child star. We just need one to get the ball rolling before it all comes tumbling down. But back to the Siwas, their method of child exploitation was via the wacky, kooky, weird world of YouTube, dropping songs, dances, and all sorts of odd things in between so her fan base can enjoy. I gotta say, in some sick, twisted, and demented way, I kinda respect the Siwas, because not only did they take an essentially useless being, aka their child, and turn it into something that's worthwhile, aka a money-making machine, they did it in a way that was completely innovative and kinda set the path. Jojo Siwa ran so Ryan could walk. Instead of opting to sell their soul to some demonic person behind some demonic entity, they decided to be the demonic salesmen themselves by slapping their little girl's face on anything that they could possibly reasonably sell. Lunchboxes, game shows, YouTube videos, music videos for the right price, and anything in between that could be deemed as appropriate to a degree. The Siwas essentially created the very first Disney kid where Disney wasn't involved, meaning they created a global household name, but did it with no network whatsoever. And while the getting was good, the getting was real good. But unfortunately for the Siwa family unit as a whole, time makes a bitch of us all. And unfortunately, their precious little piggy bank, little girl, had to grow up at some point. Which gets us to the crux of what I wanted to talk about today. You see, my many years of research has allowed me to conclude a few things. One, the faces change, but the children's entertainment almost always stays the same. Two, teachers legally can't tell you to leave if you're not technically on school grounds and are stood across the road. And three, where there's a child star, there's an adult wanting to break out. You see, unlike the rest of us who had normal time to develop as kids, aka go through our cringy phases where we have to deal with the reality of becoming an adult, these child stars never really had to experience that. Because unfortunately for them, from the time that they were 2 years old all the way up until they were 18, their life was manicured in every single sense, meaning they weren't allowed to stumble without a camera snapping the pictures of it. They were obligated to be perfect, or more specifically, be the perfect image of the brand they're trying to produce. So whereas you and I had a normal time period in order to develop, without any public pressure, these kids whose entire lives are manicured right down to the finest detail, have somewhat of a crisis of mentality when they turn 18 to 20. All of a sudden, the agents stop knocking on their doors, because they're not that cute, innocent kid anymore. We are literally seeing this happen before our very eye with Ryan's toy reviews. I know I already mentioned him, but homie has a fucking mustache and voice has cracked. There's only so long you can get him to be excited about a slime egg before it becomes creepy.
Today we are reviewing the latest toy from Hasbro. Mom, I want a cigarette.
And aside from seeing it happen in literal real time with Ryan, we are now seeing the tail end of that cycle with Jojo. Over the past year, Jojo's behavior has become more eccentric, causing a lot of people online to make fun of her. She's gotten tattoos, she's cut her hair, she's dressing like literally the worst version of a masked lesbian that we all know. You know, the type that just came out of the closet and for some reason is acting like a 15-year-old boy when it comes to talking to other girls because they've never had the experience of being a 15-year-old boy and fumbling on your face, and they're way too aggressive when it comes to trying to pick up other girls and sees every other man in their vicinity as an absolute competition. I promise you, J-Dog, I'm not trying to interfere with your bi-girlfriend. I think your snapback's on a little bit too tight because you're acting like an insecure. Basically, she's trying to find herself and break out of that incredibly tight mold that she found herself in. Unfortunately, she doesn't exactly know how to, because like I said, these kids never had the chance to discover themselves or figure things out. So where for us, the ages of 14 to 20 are all development time, meaning we have time to find our place in the world and what type of person we want to be, these kids at 20 after being cut off are essentially doing that in hyper motion speed. And specifically for Jojo, nothing has exaggerated this more than her recent song that she just released. Allow me the pleasure of reading you some of these lyrics, but just keep in mind it's coming out of this mouth and this perspective. I was a bad girl, I did some bad things. I swear I did it all for fun and it meant nothing. It never happened, it was a secret. Like when a tree falls in the forest, no one hears it. Skip past, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not cheat, thou shalt not get caught, or you'll end up just like me. Calm as a bitch, I should have known better. If I had a wish, I would have never effed around. When I saw the pics of you and her, I felt the knife twist. Calm as a bitch, she's with you right now. She's going for her naughty face. Now, it's unsurprising that a child star wants to transition into being an adult person, but I think what threw me and everybody else off was that it's Jojo Siwa trying to be edgy. It's impossible to take you seriously as the bad girl as you claim to be when this was you just a few short years ago. This is the same problem that Jake Paul had with his Netflix documentary. Your entire life has been vlogged for the public to see. We know Jake Paul was never quote-unquote a problem child because he was a Disney kid, just like how we know Jojo Siwa wasn't quote-unquote a bad girl because she was dressed like this and doing children's shows. And that's why I feel like Jojo Siwa is failing to transition over into this new era, because she's far from the first and she sure as hell won't be the last child star to try and transition into an adult entertainer. Miley Cyrus has done it. At one point she was Hannah Montana before she grew into this sexy young woman. Selena Gomez, the exact same thing. She was waving her wand on Wizards of Waverly Place before delusional 15-year-old me used to think that if I had a chance to talk to her, she might want to wave my wand. Yeah, I could literally have sex with Selena Gomez. I bet she would be really into my Pokemon lanyard that has my house key on it. But Jojo simply can't do that because we know everything about her. Those two women had an era of mystique. Yeah, they were on the TV, but we never saw them in pigtails doing dance choreography to this music. Another thing, and this is going to come across as mean, and it probably is, so I'm not even going to attempt to say that it's not. In order to go through this bad girl phase, you have to be perceived as a sexual being. That is impossible for Jojo to do. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, and I'm sorry to say, about Jojo that screams sex appeal, to men or women. I see Jojo as the same way as I see a Barbie doll. Something I can mold into my image. And something that has absolutely no anatomy besides the one that I give it. I don't think I'm being out of line here, but I can't perceive Jojo in the same way that I perceive, say, Demi Lovato. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I've literally seen her as a child, and truthfully, she still kind of looks like a child. Or maybe it's just because I don't want my precious little girl to grow up, but it just doesn't work. At the end of the day, Jojo going through this phase is no different than me going through my hip-hop phase. Hopefully, it will pass for the betterment of humanity, because you don't want Jojo throwing it back for the same reason you don't want me dropping a bunch of N-bombs. But what you do want is to be a Dino subscriber. That's all I have to say on the matter, guys. Jojo, find Allah, and I hope you grow out of this phase. Thank you all for watching. Bye-bye.